So there are a lot of phenomenal game masters out here on YouTube, but there is one that is better than all of them. Like seriously, hit the road, Matt Mercer. Adios, B. Dave Walters. You guys are great, but there's a new game master in town, and guess what? He doesn't even play Dungeons and Dragons, or Pathfinder, or Call of Cthulhu, or any game that you could name from the tabletop world. His name is Joel. And Joel is the game master behind the Galactic War in Helldivers 2. Now, you might be wondering, Crispy, Helldivers 2nd Edition? That doesn't sound like a TTRPG I've heard of before. Where did it come out? And my response to that would be, haha, you got! This isn't about a tabletop game. Helldivers 2 is a video game. Yeah, I tricked you. Woo! That's right, we're talking about a video game today. But don't worry, this is still a tabletop role-playing game video because, yeah, Helldivers 2 and the Galactic War does have a game master very similar to our game masters in tabletop role-playing games. And the actions of Game Master Joel during the recent Battle of Popli 9 is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen a game master do. It's something that I think more game masters need to consider for their own games, and something I never see any GM do on their streams or on their campaign diaries. Joel surrendered to the players. When he backed them up against a corner and they fought him off, he let them win. And I think there's a lot we can learn from that. So today, we are going to be going over what happened during the Battle of Popli 9 in Helldivers 2. What makes Joel's decision during that fight such a great GM decision, and how it can improve your tabletop games. Without further ado, y'all, let's get started. Look, the Ministry of Truth is having some trouble getting the broadcast sorted, so we're gonna cut to today's sponsor! This video is sponsored by Hit Point Press and their new Kickstarter, Humblewood Beyond the Canopy. This standalone adventure is set for both 5th edition 2024 and 5th edition 2014. It's got 250 plus pages of gorgeous artwork and incredible content. A lot of D&D supplements have new subclasses, and this has those too, but it also comes with an entire new class. Yeah, that's right, the Gadgeteer, which comes with 3 of its own brand new subclasses. This class is so creative. I thought I was a fan of the Artificer, but honestly, this Gadgeteer and its unique take on artificing has stolen away my heart. Beyond that, you have an entire level 5 to 8 adventure to explore, so come on, what are you waiting for? If you guys are interested, head down to the description down below or to the pinned comment where you will find the Kickstarter for the latest Humblewood adventure. Thank you so much to Hit Point Press and Humblewood for sponsoring today's episode. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. And without further ado, back to class. Okay, back up. Most of us here probably don't play Helldivers or don't know what it is, so I'll explain. Helldivers 2 is a third-person shooter multiplayer video game. However, it's not like your Call of Duties or your Battlefields. See, Helldivers 2 is a cooperative shooter game where you and your friends fight alongside fellow Helldivers against a vast army of alien threats. Those threats are directed by Joel. That's his role as the game master. You see, the enemy will attack planets throughout the galactic map, and your job as Helldivers is to fight them off and take back the territory that they take. Joel plays both sides. He is both the Super Earth High Command, giving us quests and rewards, much like a GM would in a tabletop game, as well as playing every single one of the bad guys, much like a game master would in a tabletop game. Now, obviously, there are some major differences because this is a video game. Joel, as a game master, needs to wait for dev teams to finish creating assets and creating new enemy types and blah, 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 blah. So his role is complicated by that, but the principle still stands. Joel is a game master. And just like many game masters, they and the development team really wanted to create an epic battle at a nostalgic location. I mean, come on, tell me you haven't tried to do this in your own game. You know, it's your anniversary, 1 year of your campaign, and you want to bring the players back to a familiar location or fight against a familiar foe. Get those nostalgia stars twinkling in their brain, you know what I mean? It's a tempting proposition, and Joel was going to do this at Malevelon Creek. If you play Helldivers, you know about the creek. the creek was the site of one of the game's most memorable slaughters, a brutal experience on a swampy planet. And last year, we took the creek in an epic battle, and we're about to reach the 1-year anniversary of the battle for Malevelon Creek, so it was perfect for Joel and the development team of Helldivers 2 to bring it all full circle and have the automatons attack Malevelon Creek once more. But the development team didn't do DM fiat. In a tabletop game, that would be your game master just making something happen. In Helldivers, Joel could have just teleported the automaton fleet to the location of Malevelon Creek. He could have just had the battle start there, but instead, Joel and the dev team followed the rules of the game. The automatons had to break through a few plants in order to get to the creek. And of course, in order to make sure that the automatons succeed in this venture, Joel made them extremely powerful and gave the Helldivers a number of disadvantages. However, Joel's plan and the developer's plan, much like many GM plans that go wrong, had one fatal flaw. And that's a fatal flaw, like I said, we see in many tabletop games. That fatal flaw being, they need the players to lose. You see, the automatons are working their way through all these planets that we control. At every step, the Helldivers are trying to fight them off. In order for the bots to get to Malevelon Creek to start this nostalgic epic battle, the players need to lose 2 or 3 planets to make that happen. And let me tell you, players do not like losing. Like, as a game master, Joel, or you behind your D&D DM screen, you want to create these epic moments, and you know where you're going with it, right? Like, yeah, the players are getting arrested now, but you're setting up an epic prison break session, so it'll all be worth it in the end. But, your players don't know that? Nor would they care, by the way, because as Helldivers, we knew that Joel was setting up a battle for Malevelon Creek, but let me tell you, did we retreat from the plants the automatons were trying to plow through in order to just have that nostalgic fight? Hell no! Thousands, tens of thousands of Helldivers rallied to defend every inch of territory. And at the Battle of Popli 9, our fate would be decided. Game Master Joel threw everything he could at us at this battle. He had the automatons upgraded with their jet brigade and their incinerator cores, increasing the difficulty of the missions by 10-fold. We had less respawns. We had more merciless supply runs. It was brutal. The difficulty was intense, but thousands upon thousands of Helldivers rallied on the desert world of Popli 9 with its harsh sandstorms and literal frickin' fire tornadoes to fight against this mechanical menace. Even when Joel added even more modifiers to make this a near impossible venture, we still eked out a victory. So this is all a really sweet story, Crispy, but how does that connect to being a game master in tabletop? What's the equivalent? Well, like I said before, there are plenty of times where you want your party to lose. Like, these darkest hour moments are really common, especially in D&D streaming. I mean, Critical Role has like 3 of them that I can name just off the top of my head. There was a darkest hour in Campaign 1 when Thordak attacked Amon and destroyed the city. Vox Machina was forced to retreat. There was a darkest hour also in Campaign 1 when Vox Machina met Vecna and they were forced to retreat. There was a darkest hour in Campaign 3 when Odahan Thule fought her way through the party and slaughtered a good amount of player characters. These are all moments where Matt Mercer, the game master behind this D&D game, intended for the players to lose. And from a story perspective, it was great. And I'm not trying to say that was bad GMing. Matt played by the rules. The players fought against Thordak, they fought against Vecna, they fought against Odahan, unchained from their base stat blocks, and they just lost. they just didn't win. Of course, Matt didn't expect them to win. You're not gonna win every battle, and sometimes retreating is a really thrilling part of a story. However, there's a non-0% chance that your party might eke out the victory. You expect them to lose, to build up the narrative, make the final battle all the more satisfying, But you don't know that your players aren't going to roll 5 miracle nat 20s and eat through your bad guy's health. You don't know that your party aren't going to find some epic way to use a spell in their repertoire to beat back one of your bad guys' most epic legendary actions. It's all possible. Your players, especially as they get higher in level, they have a lot of tools at their disposal. Going back to Helldivers, the tool we used to beat the Armada at Popli 9 was the Democracy Space Station, the DSS, which we had built months prior and provided us with a definite advantage. It evened out the battle and allowed us to call in swarms of airstrikes against our enemies. It was truly awesome. And there are times where, as a game master, you kind of might resent that. Right? Like, you came up with this epic encounter and your players are just tearing through it with some exploitative tool. And yeah, I'm not trying to say there's no such thing as stupidly overpowered combos that you might want to deal with, but in the moment, just embrace it. If your players figure out something powerful and manage to eke out the victory, that's not something to fight against. It's something to celebrate. Look, a return to Malevelon Creek, that would have been epic. It would have been great to go back to that swampy plant that we haven't seen for the past year. But Popli 9, because of the difficulty, because of the expectation for us to lose, because we won, Popli 9 became 10 times more epic, more memorable than the Creek. Winning against all odds is always going to be more memorable than losing. Look, this is not a video about difficulty being bad or players losing being bad. Okay, look, your players should probably get their butts kicked every now and then. Trust me, in Helldivers, we lose plants all the time, to the point where a lot of people assume the whole Galactic War and Joel as the game master, it's all just rigged. Which, let me make this clear, it is rigged. Of course it's rigged, to a certain degree. Joel is not a real game master at a tabletop game. He's not making this all up in his imagination. Joel has tens of thousands of players to manage, and it's a video game with development cycles and dev time. But still, Popli 9 showed that the actions of players, they can make a difference. And of course, it's worth saying that Popli 9 was still insanely difficult, but it was difficult in ways that made sense. The automatons were bringing their whole fleet to Malevelon Creek. This is their final push to take their objective. Of course, they're gonna throw everything they have at us, every specialized unit they've developed, all of their massive mecha convoys, every tool at their disposal. They have their entire fleet surrounding the plant, so of course our respawns are gonna be lower and our supplies are gonna be more restricted. We are alone against an overwhelming socialist armada, and that fantasy was great. The difficulty was still there. If Popli 9 was a cakewalk, no one would have cared. This is not a video of me telling you to let your players win. You should not let your players win. Frankly, if you know anything about me as a game master, you know that I am pro difficulty in D&D and most tabletop games as well. Look, there are times we gotta take it easy, but memorable games are created from that last-minute victory. The challenge of the win makes the win all the more sweet. But the important thing is that while you challenge your players, you don't just fiat your players. Like, Joel could have just had the automatons win that battle. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people expect the Galactic War to be rigged anyway. So if Joel turned up the rate at which the automatons took the planet and beat us, a lot of people probably would have just moved on from it after a day or two. They would have been fine with it, especially since a second battle at Malevelon Creek, this nostalgic location, would be super epic. But Joel didn't do that. There was no cheating here. If your players are pulling that unexpected victory, try not to fight against it. Yeah, you can do some things to make the fights more difficult. That's what Joel did. I mean, those restrictions on respawns and supplies, they were not a thing when the automatons first arrived at Popli 9. They were something that was developed later to increase the difficulty. And again, it all made sense from an in-universe perspective. Your changes to difficulty should not feel like fiat. They shouldn't feel like you cheating. It should feel like a natural progression of the fight. Even with all this talk of extreme difficulty making something memorable, that's not even always the case. Sometimes your players even earn an easy W. A big reason why I talked about Popli 9 was because A similar thing actually happened in my own home game of D&D. I put my players up against a very powerful Devil Lord. I thought they would win, but I thought it would be hard. And let me tell you, they fucking destroyed me. They annihilated me. They turned me into Swiss cheese. Like, it was insane. And they didn't do it with some crazy exploit or anything like that. No. They just strategized properly and were smarter than I was. The bard was pulling plays that were straight up genius level with animate object. And yeah, I could have just said, the spell doesn't work that way or some crap like that. But me letting them do those things, me letting their strategies win the day, that made that fight memorable. Look, I love a last-minute victory as much as the next guy, but when your players earn something, they earn it. And that's something to be proud of. Watching my players strategize like that was so rewarding. It validated me as a game master. I've trained them well. And now, that's probably one of the best sessions, one of the best combats I've ever run. And it wasn't even a particularly difficult one. All right, so, point is, it's okay to make sessions where you think your players are doomed to lose. It's okay to readjust fights to make them more difficult. But if despite all that, your players still manage to beat you, don't fight that, embrace it, reward it, and you will make some of those memorable sessions you've ever had. But yeah, there you go. If you guys enjoyed this episode of D&D Advice and Helldivers 2 Advice, I guess, then please do check out our last episode of RPG Horror Stories on the main channel. We covered a wannabe cult leader in D&D. It's linked in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Academy so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own tips or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. Helldivers never die. To let me know you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell. I usually wear suits to these videos.